This video is sponsored by Skillshare. More on them later on in the video. Hey everybody, I've got 3 news stories for you today, so today should be a quick one. First off, the Lenovo Legion Go just hit the lowest price yet. So if you are in the market for a Windows handheld with a big screen, stick around for that. After that, I'm going to talk about how Valve just got a 20% increase in performance on the deck, and finally, some really bad news when it comes to anti-cheat on the Steam Deck. By the way, I'm Bill Fairchild, and this is the NerdNest, my channel all about the video gaming industry. If you enjoy this video, consider subscribing. I can't believe how close I am to 75,000 subscribers. And speaking of subscribing, I don't often talk about this, but I have another channel all about content creation, making YouTube videos and podcasting. It's linked in the description down below. And right below that, you'll also see another channel that my friend Jimmy just started all about movies. It's called Real Ones, so be sure to check that out.
When did you get here?
I live here, dude.
No, I mean, how are we both in the same video at the same time?
Well, you complained that I didn't know what I was doing, so I've been learning how to edit videos better.
No, you complained that you didn't know what you're doing. I just said that the screen went blank and nobody could see what I was doing.
Well, you signed me up for Skillshare, and now I know how to do this. Skillshare is the largest online community with loads of classes led by industry experts from film, illustration, how to make video games, and more. They have learning paths, which are curated, organized class collections that take you step by step through mastering a brand new skill. I'm currently partnered with Skillshare, and I'm learning how to make YouTube videos from Marquez Brownlee, but they also have classes where you can explore drawing in Procreate, which is one of my all-time favorite iPad apps. They have classes on how to grow your YouTube channel. That's one that I absolutely need to check out. You can discover the science and art of drawing, which I'll probably watch after I watch the Procreate one. Or perhaps you want to make money online with business and marketing fundamentals, or learn how to paint with watercolors. Skillshare has so much that you can learn. So if you're a curious person and you want to expand your knowledge on just about any topic, you should explore Skillshare. And the first 500 people to join Skillshare using my link down below get 1 month of premium free. So click that link in the description and start learning from Skillshare today. When the Steam Deck arrived, it shook up the handheld market. Before the Steam Deck, most PC handhelds were really expensive, often more than $1,000 for a handheld. But then Valve released the Steam Deck at a price that they called painful, which was $400 for the cheapest version of the Valve handheld. They were able to do this because they make their money selling games, not hardware. So they could hit that lower price, and while I'm sure it was painful for them, they'll easily make money from each and every Steam Deck that they sell, even if it starts out as at a loss. After that, handheld PCs started getting much cheaper in order to compete with the Steam Deck. We had the ROG Ally, which was significantly cheaper than other handheld PCs at the time, but it was still more than the Steam Deck. When it launched, it came in 2 varieties. The Z1 Extreme model, which had a faster chipset, which sold for $700, and then the Z1 model, which sold for $600. The Z1 was a little bit slower than the Z1 Extreme. Shortly after that, the Legion Go was released for $700 as well. Again, this was the Z1 Extreme chipset. So both the Legion Go and the ROG Ally had the same chipset in them. Well, this week, Lenovo decided to drop the price of the Legion Go all the way down to $500, which is a crazy good price for that system. When the Legion Go first came out, I gave it a glowing review. Of all of the Windows handhelds that I had played at the time, the Legion Go made using Windows easier than all of the others simply because it had that big 8.8-inch screen. In fact, I would say that 8.8-inch screen is the ideal screen size for using Windows, as the touch targets are nice and big, and so you don't hit the wrong thing all the time. It's just really great to use. Additionally, it also has this fantastic kickstand that's very similar to the kickstand that's on the Nintendo Switch OLED version. After I used it for a while, I ended up migrating back to my Steam Deck simply because it's more comfortable to use, it's lighter, and 95% of the games that I play run just fine on the Steam Deck. But whenever I use a game that runs on Windows or that requires Windows, and there's going to be more information on that later, the Legion Go is what I reach for. It also has these cool detachable controllers that are very similar to the Nintendo Switch, except you detach these so that you can play first-person shooter mode. I've tried it a few times, and honestly, I'm not really a fan of how it feels. That said, I have to give Lenovo credit for doing something different than everyone else. Keep in mind that there are still 2 models for the Legion Go. Many would expect that these models would be one for the Z1 chip, which is the slower chip, and then the Z1 Extreme chip would be the more expensive one. But Lenovo did both models with the Z1 Extreme chip. So what's the difference? The $500 model, okay, first off, I want to say this. It's not the $500 model. It's actually more expensive than that, but it's on sale for $500 right now. The $500 model comes with 512 gigs of storage, which is probably plenty for most people to use, but if you do get that, you may have to do some storage shuffling if you do go with that model. You could also buy SD cards to upgrade the storage. I've got links to SD cards and anything else that I mentioned down below, so you can check those out if you want to support the channel and pick up stuff that you know is going to work real well. You can also pick up a replacement storage drive, but you have to make sure that you get the right one. Let me explain how these replacement storage drives work, and if I get anything wrong, correct me in the comments down below. The Steam Deck and the ROG Ally use M.2 2230 drives. The ROG Ally X uses M.2 2280 drives. I've been asked a million times what these numbers mean. The 22 millimeters, I just spoiled it. The 22 is how many millimeters wide the drive is. And the second number, which is 30 or 80, tells you how many millimeters long it is. So the 2230 drive that's in the Steam Deck is 22 millimeters wide and 30 millimeters long. The Legion Go uses M.2 2242 drives. That means that they're 22 millimeters wide and 42 millimeters long. You can buy adapters that'll let you use shorter drives on devices that have longer slots, but I think you're better off just picking up a 2242 drive for your Legion Go if you're picking up one at all. I've got an affiliate link down below if you decide to pick up a new drive. The other option from Lenovo is the exact same system, but with a bigger drive in it, so you don't have to go through the process of upgrading that drive. It comes with 1 terabyte of storage, but it costs $749. Now, 9 times out of 10, I would say get the more expensive version because it's only $50 higher than the price of the Legion Go. But with the lower tier version being 28% off, you can buy the $500 system and then augment it with a 1 terabyte drive for just another $100. Now you're still only at $600 and you've matched what the higher priced package can provide. Or you can spend $500 on the cheaper version of the Lenovo Legion Go, and then you can get a 2 terabyte drive for $150. And at that point, you would still be $100 cheaper than the most expensive Legion Go, and you would have double the storage. Either way, this is a hell of a deal. So if you love using Windows, or if you're a Game Pass fan and you're looking for a great system to play Game Pass games on, I think this could be a really good deal for you. If you're not sure about the Legion Go, be sure to check out my day 1 review of the system. We also did a deep dive discussion on the podcast, the NerdNest podcast. There was an episode where it was me, Russ from Retro Game Core, Carrie, aka The Fox, and we talked about the Legion Go about a week after it came out for a couple of hours. Or you can check out my 6-month review of the system. Like I said, links down below for all of that stuff. Moving on to Valve, they just pushed an update to their latest update, so they updated their update. Their first update was 3.6.19, which brought tons of features and fixes to the Steam Deck and SteamOS. But if you want to know more about SteamOS 3.6, I've got a video about that. But this new update to SteamOS 3.6.19 brings us up to 3.6.20, which brought a massive 20% improvement to Metaphor ReFantazio. Hopefully I said the name of that game right. This is one of the things that makes me love SteamOS. We're constantly seeing Valve respond to and fix issues with specific games, especially if those games are popular games. You see, Valve gets all kinds of data sent back to them when you are playing games on SteamOS, and because of this, they can turn around and then optimize their operating system to make the most popular games run better. The devs don't have to lift a finger. And here's the tweet from Pierre-Luc Griffet, who works over at Valve. They had fixed an issue that would revert you to a previous version of the operating system if you had modified certain files. They also fixed an issue that would happen if you took a bunch of screenshots while you had a game recording happening. And then right here, improved performance in Metaphor ReFantazio by up to 20%. This brings me right back to the launch of the Steam Deck, when the deck was the best place to play Elden Ring. It didn't start out that way, but Valve pushed out patches to get the game running smoother. They did it again with Apex Legends by updating the FPS limiter, which was introducing input lag and choppiness to the game. More on Apex later on in the video. But there were a lot of times where big game launches on day one, performance on the deck was pretty rough, but then Valve sends out a patch on SteamOS or a Proton patch, and suddenly the game runs silky smooth. It's the kind of thing that makes me really excited about the prospect of Valve putting out a console, one that does everything that the Steam Deck does, but doesn't have a screen, doesn't have a battery, and just hooks up to your TV to play games that are just like on the Steam Deck, but with more power than the Steam Deck. But it isn't all puppy dogs and ice cream today, because we also have some really bad news. Remember earlier when I mentioned Apex and earlier when I mentioned Windows? Well, I just found out that Apex Legends has been yoinked from the Steam Deck. EA had this to say about it. Basically, they found out that Linux is a viable pathway to cheat in their game. They understand that there's lots of people legitimately using Linux either on the Steam Deck or other systems, but they don't currently have any way to differentiate between legitimate players on Linux and cheating players on Linux. They continued, "We had to weigh the decision on the number of players who were legitimately playing on Linux, aka the Steam Deck, versus the greater health of the population of the players of Apex Legends. While the population of Linux users is small, their impact infected a fair amount of players' games. This ultimately brought us to our decision today." Then they wrap up by saying that they are still working on this and they will give more information as it becomes available. I'm not sure, but I think this might be the first time that a game has been yoinked from the Steam Deck due to anti-cheat and the publisher actually acknowledged that it's impacting legit users on the Steam Deck. It just goes to show that the deck is getting bigger and harder to ignore, because if it were easy enough to ignore, EA would not have mentioned anything. Hopefully EA can figure out a way around this so that they can get rid of the assholes that are cheating, but the legitimate players can keep playing on their hardware and operating system of choice. I will say that if you recently bought any in-game currency in the game and you were using the Steam Deck as your main way to play the game, I would personally reach out to Valve or EA and see if you can get a refund, since you're not going to be able to play anymore. I'm betting you'll have more luck with Valve than EA, but perhaps not. This is yet another example of how anti-cheat and DRM interferes with paying customers. Sure, Apex is a free-to-play game, but it's the same as any pay-to-play game. You buy a game expecting to be able to play it, and then suddenly the rug gets pulled out from under you with no warning. I really think that Valve needs to update their contracts with publishers to say that you can't just yank someone's game that they paid for because you don't want to support Linux. If the game runs on Linux at the time that the end user buys it, and that user played the game on Linux, then that user should be entitled to a refund if the publisher makes a change that stops the user from playing anymore. I totally understand that publishers are making these games for Windows and Valve is using Proton to allow us to play games on SteamOS. But I also understand that people are making their purchasing decisions based on whether or not a game runs on SteamOS, and for publishers to continually remove functionality without considering the repercussions for people who are playing games and paying for those games on Steam Deck adds insult to injury. And when Valve inevitably does put out their console, you know, what I talked about earlier, a system just like the Steam Deck, without a battery, without a screen, and with more power that you just hook up to your TV, and then you can play your Steam games on that system without having to build a system, I think that that's only going to exacerbate the issue. And it's something that I feel like Valve needs to find a way to address. I'm certainly not saying that EA is the bad guys in this case. They're just trying to do what's best for their player base. Actually, I think they're trying to do what's best for a majority of their player base. I certainly don't think that their hands are tied, and hopefully we do see something in the future where Apex is made available again on SteamOS. But let me know what you all think in the comment section down below that like button. And before you go, make sure that you check out this video right here. YouTube seems to think you're going to love it. From the Nerd Nest, I'm Bill. Stay rad, and thanks for watching.